I think yesterday Monty Python turned 51, John.
Well, some of us.
I mean, that's a long time. When you look back at that whole period of your life, what do you remember? What were the highs? What were the lows?
Well, I remember at the beginning it was rather joyful because it was as though someone had taken us into the country and opened up a gate to a field and all these beautiful flowers. And somebody said, just go pick them. And then as we picked the flowers, there were less and less, and it took a little more time. But then we were getting better at certain things like packaging the show rather than the end. And then I think what was crucial was that there were two things. There were three things. One thing is that Graham Chapman became an alcoholic between the first and second series. It happened very fast. None of us saw it happening. And because alcoholics are a bit secretive, we didn't realize at the beginning of the second series, and still things started to happen. And that was harder for me than the others because I wrote with him. And there were times latterly when writing the Holy Grail, he couldn't remember in the afternoon what we'd written in the morning. I mean, the alcoholism was very severe, and then he was wonderful. He beat it completely in order to play Brian in Life of Brian. 87 at Christmas, he went cold turkey, and that was fantastic. But I was fed up with working with someone who just wasn't really present, and none of the other Pythons. So that was one reason. The other thing is I used to do an awful lot of arguing with dear old Terry Jones because I found it hard to work with Jones. I found it very easy to work with Idle and Palin, but I found it difficult to work with Terry Jones because Terry always felt he was right. That whatever came up, he saw that he was really right because he really felt so strongly that he was right. Well, how you feel about things is not a measure of their validity. It's just a measure of how you feel about them. I think nowadays people feel that they feel intensely strong about something and they must be right. It's complete rubbish. But I used to find it difficult arguing with him. And after we made the last film, Meaning of Life, a lot of material, some material had gone in, which I didn't think was good enough. And other more exciting, interesting material had been left out because it had been outvoted. And I thought, well, I'd like to now make my own mistakes rather than making other people's mistakes or making mistakes with other people. So that's why I went off to do Fiscal Wonder.
Right. Was that scary to go off on your own, or was it a welcome release to just be you and do your own thing?
Well, I think there was a certain familiarity to it because I'd been working on very small projects with this marvelous old man, Charlie Crichton, who was born in 1910. So by the time we were working on this, it was 85, 86, and he and I had worked together. We were very comfortable working together. He did the cameras, I did the actors. And so there was a great feeling I wasn't on my own. And I gradually got it together, and I was so impressed with Kevin and Jamie, and I always thought Michael was marvelous. So I was trying to get the parts right for them. Then we had a read-through, which was quite interesting, and the least successful part was mine. And everyone else was great, but Archie wasn't right. And then we talked about it, and it was a great group. They said, just make him more believable. I was pushing too hard to make him as funny as the others. Well, Kevin and Ken were the funny ones. Right. And Jamie and I were much more the sort of emotional content of the film. So the moment I made Archie sort of more real and incorporate a little bit of my own stuff, like you have any idea what it's like, Wanda, to be English? When I started to put that stuff in, then it all worked. So, but I had a good group of people around me, and that's what I've always done. I always work with a good group of people around me because I think what we're doing is very difficult. And if you listen to good people, they will head you off from the worst mistakes.
I was going to ask you, I mean, A Fish Called Wanda, it's got to be the movie that probably more people in the world know you about. And it's this film that when I hear it mentioned, I get this special feeling inside me, even though I must have watched it when I was a teenager. And so maybe I didn't appreciate it as much as older people, but there was something really special about that movie. And I'm wondering.
Yes, I agree with you. It was timeless, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, you were talking earlier about how everything comes together, the crew, and then I know you wrote and directed, and what made that so special? Was everyone on the same wavelength, or? What do you think?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, we had a very good cameraman, Alan Hume, who shot Bond movies, and he was a perfect team player. We had a first assistant who was the only first assistant I ever worked with, Jonathan Benson, who was really good, because every 20 minutes he told everyone on the set what was happening, what was going to happen next, what we were hoping to get to that evening. So everyone always knew what was going on. And it's incredible how that changes the atmosphere on the set, because most of the time people don't know what's happening, whether they're going to be needed in 2 minutes or tomorrow. So he was a great first assistant. And then Jamie was so surprised when she saw I was taking lines from everyone. The first read through, Jonathan, the first assistant was there, and he suddenly said, I think it would be better if, and I said, you're right. And I just changed the thing. And Jamie was a first assistant director suggesting a line for a script. And if you have this atmosphere where everyone can contribute, everybody becomes more creative. Otherwise, they put themselves in the box that you hand to them.
Right. And that all came out on the screen, didn't it? All of that.
It was a very happy occasion, and everybody was happy about it. Whereas the next time we got together, everybody had sort of personal difficulties. One person thought they had Lyme disease, and somebody else was having children problems, and Michael Palin was about to go off and go around the world for the first time, and nobody was quite focused, and so it wasn't as good. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't anything like as good as Wanda. And the trouble is it was presented as a sequel, so people thought I was trying to do the same sort of thing, where I was actually trying to make a movie that parents and children could watch.
Okay. And you wrote, directed, and starred in Fish Called Wanda, right?
Yes, I worked the plot out with this marvelous old guy, Charlie Crichton. I worked the plot out with him, and then I wrote it. And yes, I played, and I'd already knew that I wanted Michael in it, and I already knew that I wanted Kevin in it. And I spent a lot of time because I thought that Wanda was going to be English, and I couldn't find anyone who was right. And then my older daughter took me off to see Trading Places. And I thought, right.
And that was it.
That was it. I just checked out, and everyone said she's a delight on set. She's a real team player, and I met her, and we got on very well. And I think she said to me at the very beginning, she said, I've only done 6 weeks comedy in my life. He said, I need a bit of help. And I say, I'm there for you. So I sort of helped her a little bit with some of the rhythms. But she's a very good actress. And Kevin, of course, is a genius.
Yeah.
And Michael's not bad for a man of his age.
Yeah, that's true. I can't imagine it being anything else than an American Woman. You know, that's the perfect call.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And I'm writing one at the moment, which is a light comedy about cannibalism. And the title is Yummy. And I'm playing a British newspaper proprietor. And I suddenly realized that his wife has to be American. I don't know why, but I know it's right.